A generation that ignores history has no past and future. Our dear country survived the bloody coup and the civil war. Many men and women paid a huge price for Nigeria's unity before, during, and after the civil war. In terms of leadership, Nigeria has experienced many leaders since independence, from civilian rule to military regime. Our country has had its fair share of civility and dictatorship. Our focus today will be Nigeria's former head of state, the only one with an alias of evil genius, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, often called the IBB. Born on August 17, 1941 in Minna, Niger State, Babangida is one of the most prominent figures in Nigeria's political history. His legacy, particularly as a military leader, left an indelible mark on the country's governance, economy, and political structure. Babangida ruled Nigeria from August 1985 to August 1993, a period characterized by significant political and economic changes, some of which continue to shape Nigeria till today. Babangida's rise to power was a product of Nigeria's military environment. He joined the Nigerian Army in 1962 and quickly ascended the ranks, earning a reputation for being a tactician and highly disciplined officer. Babangida, after participating in the Nigerian Civil War between 1967 and 1970, held various command and staff positions. IBB participated in all the military coups in Nigeria, including the one that ferried him to power on August 27, 1985, when he toppled the government of General Muhammadu Buhari, who earlier had toppled the civilian government of President Shehu Shagari. Babangida ruled for 8 years and turned Nigeria into a huge laboratory of social-political engineering processes that he called the Transition to Civilian Rule Program. Government agencies like the police, the state security services, the Directorate of Military Intelligence perpetrated abuses, operated with absolute impunity, from creating horrifying detention conditions. Torture centers were operated primarily to silence Babangida's critics as head of state. It should also be fresh in our memory, Delegia, a firebrand, redoubtable journalist and former editor-in-chief of Newswatch magazine, who was brutally murdered with a passive bomb in the comfort of his home in a manner that bore the hallmarks of assassination by the state. Babangida's government stymied all efforts to find and prosecute his killers. However, Babangida portrayed himself as a moderate who promised political liberation, economic reform, and a return to civilian rule. Babangida is a roundly contradictory figure. He is simple yet complicated. He was once a soldier and a master politician, far more adept at the game than even those who profess it for a living. Corruption was at an alarming rate during Babangida's regime, as it had become an instrument of regime legitimization and stability. Indeed, Babangida's regime, like many military regimes, became entangled in and ended up epitomizing corruption, the same reason they took over power in the first place. During the Babangida autocratic regime, corruption was raised to the level of state policy, and allegations of corrupt practices were treated with utmost levity, destroying all the achievements of the previous administration. Babangida's regime was committed to geostrategic partnership in Africa's regional security, conflict resolution, and economic diplomacy. His regime had an unapologetic and uncompromising resolve to keep Nigeria's #1 position. Babangida relied on strong arm tactics and a tightly controlled program that derailed the transition to the Third Republic in his highly regimental position to civilian rule, despite several years of manipulation of the transition to a civilian government. The Babangida administration conducted elections in 1993, which, although with minor exceptions, were applauded as free and fair by international and local election monitoring groups. The election was generally considered free and fair, partly because of the adopted open ballot system. Chief Moshood Kasimu Abiola MKO of the SDP gained 57% of the total vote cast from 16 states. Results from the remaining states were still being collated when the head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida, in a special broadcast annulled the 1993 June 12 election. Babangida also suspended the National Electoral Commission chairman, also repealed Decree Number 3, 52 and 13 of the 1992 and 1993, which provided for the transition to a civilian rule. Justifying allowing the election, Babangida argued, among other things, that these steps are taken to protect our legal system, the judiciary, from being ridiculed and politicized, both nationally and internationally. The annulment of the June 12, 1993 election threw Nigeria into chaos. Demonstrations were held in Lagos by a campaign for democracy. Peaceful demonstrations were also held by hundreds of human rights and pro-democracy activists. Labor leaders, academics, students, and workers were not left out. They were arrested, killed by military and security forces. Waves of protests, coupled with international pressure, compelled Babangida to step down and hand over power to an interim national government led by Chief Ernest Shonekan. Although Shonekan, who many saw as a surrogate of the Babangida regime, was named Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Defense Minister General Sani Abacha actually held the reins of power. It was therefore no surprise to Nigerians when Shonekan resigned after only 4 months, transferring power to General Sani Abacha, who assumed control and removed all remnants of Babangida's stillborn plan to reschedule democratic elections. One of the most unfortunate events of the annulment was the impetus provided to the divisive influences of ethnicity and regionalism, which have tainted Nigerian politics since independence. The strong showing throughout the country by Abiola, a Yoruba Muslim from the south, would have provided the nation more than 250 ethnic groups, an unprecedented opportunity for unity. African leaders fall short of their promise when they vie for public office to fight for the people and promote good governance. General Babangida, despite his proclamation during his August 1985 maiden broadcast to the nation to strive for the rule of law, transparency, equity, and accountability, displayed an attitude of contempt and disregard for Nigerians. In collaboration with his friend, General Babangida ruled a draconian decree and edicts, many of which negated the jurisdiction of the courts and trampled on the fundamental human rights of the people. Arguably, Babangida jettisoned the majority of promises he made, proving the trust deficit culture as to be as endemic in Nigeria in particular as in Africa in general.